Look with me on the first page of the packet that I asked you to go ahead and download. The first page, it says research-based synthesis paper. That's what you're going to be writing. What does it mean to synthesize? When you're writing, what does that mean? It means that you're combining parts to make a whole, and that's what you're being asked to do on this paper. You're being asked to go get evidence for a point of view that you have, and you're going to take those pieces of evidence. You're going to take the opposition, and you're going to put all of that together to make one paper. All right, you're synthesizing all of it. So now you have your sources, and it's time to start synthesizing, to start putting it together. How are you going to do that? That's what we're going to talk about. Let me say, you have to read all of this material for it to make sense, and for you to understand completely where I'm coming from and what you need to do. Because I'm going to hit the highlights, and it's just like this. I'm not going to go through here and read all the bullet points, but what I do want to make note of is down here at the bottom, where it says, make sure that your paper is well organized and provides enough support for your viewpoint. The key word here is organized, and that's what I want to talk about. Let's look at the second page. How do I organize my research? There's several ways. You may have heard of people using the note card method. We're not going to use that because for online classes it's a little bit difficult, and even if you're taking it in the brick and mortar, to save the big 50 cents that it might cost for note cards, I'm going to save you that little bit of money and a little trip to the dollar store or to Walmart, and I have a sheet made for you, and that's what we're going to use other than note cards. So, but there's other methods. It mentions here a software program, and you may be interested in that, but for this paper we're going to use the note cards. Also, depending on, as you go further in your career, whatever it is that you may do, if you write more papers, the longer, they're going to get longer, the more advanced, higher level classes that you go through. I'm in the dissertation writing process, and I have hundreds of sources, so I use an Excel spreadsheet to keep them all straight. And so whatever works for you. But for this class, again, we're going to use note card method, but yet we're going to do it on paper, on a worksheet. Okay. How do you organize it? Well, this first bullet. This is very important. Very important. Every time you write down a piece of information, every time you write down or type a piece of information, you must do this. This important bullet right here. Label the source, the page number, if applicable, and whether it is a paraphrase, quote, or summary. This is what you're going to do as far as your organization, okay? And it says each piece of information should be categorized into subtopics, such as background information, career, counterpoints, which would be oppositions. And all that is depending on the main focus of the paragraph. If you want your second paragraph to be about background information, then that's what you need to write down, that this source contains background information. Okay, that's your subtopic. Why is that important? Organization. It goes back to organization. Organizing is what you do before you do something, so that when you do it, it isn't all mixed up. And that's the simple explanation of why you go through making research sheets that we're talking about. But it also helps you, to explain the organization. It helps you identify what the sources gave you. What information did this particular source give you? All right. It helps you remember that so you can find it, and it helps you also decide if you need more information after you lay it out, after you make your research sheets and you see, I don't have enough information for my opposition. I don't have enough information for paragraph number 3. Okay, so you go back and you get that. And it also helps you decide, okay, I need to put, for logical order, I need to put this piece of information in paragraph 2. All right, so it helps you tremendously on synthesizing, making all of the information that you've collected come together to make one paper. All right, let's look at the next page, and you will find one of these research notes worksheets. All right, and it says for you, I have in parentheses here, use a different sheet for each source. So you know you're going to have 5 of these right off the bat because you have annotated 5 sources for me, right? And so you're going to have, this is page 3, you're going to have at least 5 different worksheets. And one of those has to be a what? A primary source. One of those needs to also be a what? A journal. All right, remember that. To fill these out, you're going to put the title of the article or the newspaper article. All right, the title of the book that you used. All right, or the chapter or in the book. Okay, might be a little bit that's probably the better way of explaining for as a book. And I don't know, you may or may not use a book, but if you're going to do that, then you need to put that's where the chapter or one, and then put the title of that chapter there. Okay, and it'll come together in just a minute. The author, of course, who wrote it, the publication. If you have used the Clarion Ledger, that's a newspaper, then you're going to put the Clarion Ledger there. That's who published it, the work, right? Then whatever if it's a journal article, it may be Journal of American Psychology. Then that's where you're going to put the title of the name of the journal. And the title goes up here, right? Then the date published. What type of source is this? What does that mean, right? What does it mean? The type of source. Is it, there again, is it a newspaper? Is it a magazine? What is it? Is it a journal? Very important, okay? To get all of this information that you can. And if you have retrieved it from the web, then you put your date of access. For example, if I had gotten, if we were looking on something, the web together, then today's February the 4th, then I'm going to put that as my date, February 4th, 2017, if that's when I accessed this information. Then I put down for information that you may need is the other. I would put here, I would put my subtopic. All right, I would put, if I'm planning on using this information in my background, if I'm going to use this information in my paragraph number 3, whatever point that I'm trying to make in my paragraph number 3, this is going to support it. And what is that main point that you're trying to make from this article? Because this is asking, what is the main point of the article? And then that's where you write it down. And it'll help you remember, okay, this is I'm using this because my subtopic is background, and the main point of this article had something to do with background, right? Opposition source or not? Yes or no? Is this source talking? Does it give the opposite opinion of what you're trying to persuade? Is it a primary source? No or yes? Okay. Move down here, and I have provided spacing for you to write what you're going to use from this particular article, and then put a page number so you don't have to go back and find the page number. Very important. All right, and let me stop and say right now, you should use, if you're going to use a quote in one paragraph, then you need to alternate it up and use a paraphrase the next. Be very careful not to use too many quotes in your paper, okay? Rotate it out. Other notes that you may want to put down there, I gave a space for. It's that simple. Let me say this: sometimes you will not be provided all of this information, but if you find yourself looking at a source that doesn't have half of this, you might need to find another source. Remember the validity, the CRAAPP test, the CRAP test. If sometimes, again, it's not unusual for you not to be able to find all of this information, but if you're having trouble finding, let me say this: most of these blanks should be full. Okay, most of them. It should not be the opposite, that a couple of them are full, or 3 or 4. Most of them. Okay. All right, let's move on. You're gonna have a paper outline due, and it gives a I'm not gonna read this you need to read it. All right, but you need to look with me here. This is an example of how it should look. It should be set up like this, and this outline that I've given you also will help you understand what your paper will look like, as far as what do you need to include. What do I mean by that is, you gotta have introduction, the background information. You need to get enough information to talk about in a paragraph, no more than 1 paragraph, because you're not doing a report, you're doing a persuasive paper. Then in the 3rd paragraph, that's your first point of view. That's your first piece of evidence that backs up your claim. Let's go through these, okay? So everybody understands what we're talking about. Let me back up and go back up here to the introduction. It says open with an attention getter. There's a couple of ways that you can, well, more than a couple. There's you probably have heard of these. I like to open up with a quote. The only time that it is okay to use the pronoun you in this paper is if you are quoting something, or you're going to get penalized for that. No personal pronouns, okay? Unless it's in a quote. But you can open up with a quote as long as you cite that. You can find all sorts of pithy quotes on Google, and just type your topic and hit image, and more quotes than you can imagine will come up. For example, if I used the example a couple of times about the JonBenet Ramsey case. I Googled JonBenet Ramsey quotes, and it was hundreds of memes with quotes that come up about the case. One of them was, it says, when an innocent child is killed in her own home and the response of the justice system is as defective as it has been, in the JonBenet case, all hope dies as well. And that's from from her parents' book that they wrote, Patsy and John Ramsey. And you could open up your research paper with a quote, whatever topic that you have chosen. But you have to cite that if it comes from, in this case, it was from their book, so I would have to cite that. You could open up with a statistic. There again, you would have to cite it. More than 200,000 cold cases. There are more than 200,000 cold cases since 1980. Something like that, to grab the reader's attention. That's what we're trying to do. It's an attention getter. You could also open up with a question, but let me warn you about questions. Do not, again, use you. And also be careful when you make general statements in the opening. But if you opened up simply with, who killed JonBenet Ramsey? And then the next sentence would be something like, that question has been a haunting, that question has haunted many for years. So something like that would be fine. But be careful if you're just going to open up with general statements about how it could turn into the understood you, and you get penalized for it. If you, for example, if you said something about, imagine spending a perfect Christmas and awakening to a horrible Christmas, a day after Christmas, learning that you lost a child. That's an understood you. Imagine spending a perfect Christmas. That is an understood you. You have to be mindful of that. Okay, that'll cost you. Let's move on down back. This just needs topic sentences. Or open up with a topic sentence. Then it's going to need your information that you want to discuss, and of course, cite it. Any information that you, because what did it say? What did it say up here? Let's go back and read it because it's very, very important. It says, label the sources. Every time you write down or type a piece of information, you must label the source, the page number. That is citing. You have to cite it. All right. Let's go back. You got to give credit, or you'll be plagiarized. Okay. You're going to cite this information that you're using. The last sentence would be a transitional sentence. This kind of sums up what you've told and leads to the next sentence, or the next paragraph. Okay? This is going to join in with the first sentence, which will be your topic sentence. Topic 1 or argument 1. All right? Let's look at this. Let's understand what evidence, counterclaim, rebuttal, and transitional sentence is. The evidence, of course, is the point of view that you're trying to prove. You're going to offer up a piece of evidence that you're going to use, all right? Then, sticking with the JonBenet case as an example, if you said something like, you offered up the evidence here. The justice system failed John Benet Ramsey because, and then you'll give the reasons why, and then you would cite that. The counterclaim is your opposition, and you may say something like, while the justice system, like all government entities, needs improvement, to say it failed John Benet Ramsey seems unjustifiable because, and then you give the reasoning, and then you cite that. Then you have gotten back here to the rebuttal. The rebuttal, you've heard that probably used on TV when you have witnesses on the stand, and if it's in this court, and the judge will say, you want a rebuttal, and what that is where you're going to go back and you're going to say, well, in a nice way, about the opposition statement that you just wrote. You're going to say, yes, it may be a little bit too harsh to say that it failed her. However, give the reasoning why. You could say, the justice system performs a vast array of duties, and in large part performs their duties well. However, criticizing the justice system in the John Benet Ramsey case holds much merit. And then explain why. Do you see that you've offered the reasoning that you think that the justice system failed her? The counterclaim, wait, hold on, that's a little bit too harsh, and gives a reason why. Then the rebuttal is where you go back and you say, well, it may sound harsh, but the fact is, and explain again why. And then you write a transitional sentence that kind of sums up all that you told, but yet leads into the next body paragraph. The last sentence does not, you don't cite that, because that's your thought. Okay? And these are sandwiched ideas, basically. You have a thought, that's your own personal thought, and then these are all evidence sources, documented evidence that you're bringing in. You're synthesizing, right? You're synthesizing, you're putting all this together with your words here, and then you're synthesizing in here, okay? With outside sources. You'll do that all the way. You're going to do that, have 3 paragraphs of your points, and then you'll have a conclusion. The next thing is, how do I write an introduction? I want you to read that. I gave you some examples about a possible ways of opening up an introduction for to draw the reader in, to make them interested in reading your paper. Now, Works Cited, because you have to do a Works Cited page. What is a Works Cited page? You're going to read this, and you're going to find out. It's basically a bibliography page, right? On page 346, in your textbook, you'll see an example of a Works Cited page, how it's supposed to look when you get finished, and you need to look on there and see that it's in alphabetical order. Notice how that it is lined up, how it's indented, the spacing. it needs to look identical to that, okay? Yours does. What you're going to do is you're going to take the information that you wrote on the research note worksheet that I think that was our page number 3 in this packet. All that information, you're going to take that, and then you're going to write it out in a format, and you're going to write out a Works Cited page. I also gave you there is another little file that you need to download. It is called the MLA source format sheets. Very important, very useful tool, because it will help you. It will help you a lot. I have, for example, this one that I'm looking at is an electronic resources. So if you have information from a website, I show you exactly where you can fill it in. The information that you have from the worksheet that you wrote out, that you plugged in the information that we went over. That's the 3rd page that you filled out, or that you will have filled out by the time that you get to writing the Works Cited page. This is very useful. Very, very useful. So make sure you download that, and you just plug that information in. And once you plug it in, you basically copy that into another, you type that into another sheet, and it makes a Works Cited page. But look on page 346 in your textbook for an example. You also let's look on page 8, list of elements to include for each entry in your Works Cited. That's just another way this is written out. But if you also again look and get your the source format sheets downloaded, you'll also see that it's what you're reading on paper is what this will once you write this information out, you'll have it cited. All right. I hope you could see that. And then, what should I cite? As I said at the beginning, everything that you use, it's a general rule of thumb, is that you cite all quotes and paraphrases, as well as any information that is not considered common knowledge to your audience. This means, depending on the type of paper and your audience, you may need to cite or not cite different pieces of information. When in doubt, cite. All right? That's a good rule of thumb. You need to read this. It's very important. And it tells you some examples of what's most likely common knowledge of. And then what are the guidelines about what must be cited. All right. Read through that. I also gave you arguments worksheet. This is for your benefit. You don't necessarily have to use this. This is just kind of another useful tool that I think that you might find beneficial. And this is giving you a chance to say your argument and then the possible opposition. Remember from the outline, because you're going to give the evidence and then you're going to give the counterclaim, which would be right here, the possible opposition. All right, so it's helping you kind of line that up a little bit. Get it in your mind. You do not have to use this, but I thought it might be beneficial to some of you. All right, I think that pretty much covers, this is the highlights. You must read. Again, I know I sound like a broken record, and I know some of my ramblings might even make things worse. I don't know, but I have attempted to try to spend a little bit of time here to explain it rather than me just giving it to you and saying, okay, I need you to write me a paper. You know, you can use your textbook, but this, it's once you get going with it, it's pretty simple. And again, do it up front, because remember, the more you organize up front, it keeps you from mixing it up or messing it up in the end. And that's what that's why we're doing this. All right, so you've got a good bit to do, and I'm looking forward to receiving your outline and your works cited and your introduction.